Shilling and Star Wars go hand in hand. At least they used to.
The following is a World-Class Bullshitters exclusive.
Ahsoka is a tough nut to crack. It's even tougher to watch. It's not good enough to get excited over, it's not bad enough to rage over, but it's average enough for people at Collider to finally be honest about Star Wars. Historically, Collider has been what we call a shill site. Or shite. The sites that give good reviews to bad entertainment because they've been paid, have an agenda, or flat out have bad taste. Shilling for Disney Star Wars was a national pastime. Site after site would proclaim that it was the angry, bigoted fans that had the problem, and that Disney Star Wars was perfect as is. Well, after enough time has passed, or checks have bounced, the honesty has come out, and it's about damn time. Before we talk about hell freezing over, today's video is brought to you by me, Jeff Hicks, and my graphic novel, Stealing Solo. If you're a Star Wars fan, and want to read a story about the ultimate Star Wars fan experience, then Stealing Solo is for you. Stealing Solo asks the greatest what-if question of all time. What if a group of disgruntled Star Wars fans kidnap Harrison Ford and force him to remake Star Wars in their basement? That, and a whole lot more, is answered in Stealing Solo, a Captain's Parody. Stealing Solo has been called Laugh Out Loud Funny and the greatest Star Wars parody since Spaceballs, and it's available now for a limited time only. Go to StealingSolo.com, which is powered by Shopify, so you get the reward-winning safety and security, and get yourselves a copy today. Once we sell through this limited backstock, I'm going back to the drawing board to bring you the sequel, which parodies Luke Skywalker's fall from grace, and finally the closing chapter, which I can't wait to get to, Frankenfisher, the Bride of Solo. And yes, it's exactly what you think it is. So folks, the only way to get that is go to StealingSolo.com right now, get yourselves a copy, and enjoy the greatest Star Wars parody since Spaceballs. Ahsoka looks nice, but it's as hollow as a paper towel tube. The Disney Plus series has a lot going for it on the surface, but in reality, it doesn't. It's when a story structure feels as limp as Twizzlers that the problems arise. One can't maintain goodwill when the hand-wavy details are constant distractions. As divisive as the prequel trilogy and The Last Jedi were, that's an understatement about The Last Jedi, they demonstrated intentionality and originality. Well, I guess that's fair, you can be original and terrible at the same time. Just ask Rian Johnson. In the Ahsoka series, exuberance to move the filled-with-holes plot along, Dave Filoni has chosen the dual paths of convenience and contrivance. MacGuffins and plot machinations matter more than character development, to the point that the series' overarching feel is distractive and unfulfilling. For all that Ahsoka continues the narrative threads of Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars The Clone Wars, two series with a combined history of 15 years, its emotional moments are off-puttingly hollow, its dialogue jarringly juvenile, and its arc too reliant upon nostalgia in place of substance. These, when examined, were a part of the larger whole, are the same mistakes that proliferated the bane of modern Star Wars content, the Rise of Skywalker. Time has yet to be kind to 2019's The Rise of Skywalker. Given the film's warranted backlash, it's unlikely the flexible arc of critic reevaluation will give it another chance. Ahsoka's soullessness isn't yet a carbon copy of J.J. Abrams' sequel trilogy culmination, which felt more akin to a script written by AI. Dave Filoni cares about his creation, and his animation track record is golden. Nevertheless, Ahsoka's aggressively mediocre tendencies don't inspire confidence in its upcoming back half. Too many spiritual parallels to the Rise of Skywalker's underlying problems exist, as well as a similar sense of aimless plotting, easy resolutions, and nostalgia-driven imitation. Such road bumps aren't even new to the world of live-action Star Wars television. See The Mandalorian. Just like The Rise of Skywalker made everything too easy, so too does Ahsoka flatten everything to its detriment. An especially explicable choice on Filoni's part, since the ending to Star Wars Rebels gave him a galaxy of unfettered and unique material to play with. Ahsoka's MacGuffining of its main villain is perhaps its strongest parallel. A theory-fixated internet demanded answers to Rey's last name as soon as The Force Awakens dropped in 2015. Rian Johnson gleefully counteracted expectations by making her heritage of no consequence. Regardless of one's opinions on such a move, rather than retain that revelation and pursue its after effects, the Rise of Skywalker director J.J. Abrams retroactively restored Rey's bloodline to its egregious mystery box status. And in her hunt for Emperor Palpatine, her evil grandfather, Rey easily locates a tool that conveniently leads her to Palpatine's location. When the two meet, cue cringeworthy dialogue and excessive CGI. Hunting down a villain is Ahsoka's narrative backbone. It's not often a MacGuffin is a person, but that's what Ahsoka has made the regal Grand Admiral Thrawn. An object, event, or character in a film or a story that serves to set and keep a plot in motion despite usually lacking intrinsic importance. Hopefully Thrawn demonstrates three-dimensional traits once he arrives, but Ahsoka has both oversimplified a menacing situation and bogged itself down. Plus a pursuit led by three underdeveloped characters and resisted by heroes who fell asleep at the wheel isn't an auspicious start. Where are the stakes when nothing needs a reason? Then there's the damn map. Just like The Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker, Ahsoka revolves around a map inexplicably imbued with Thrawn's location. The device charts ancient pure girl migration patterns. But why is Morgan Elsbeth so certain this is the one with Thrawn's coordinates? It's never explained. It's just because the plot demands so much. For a problem Filoni made with the whole series to solve, Where's Waldo, Thrawn, is resolved with an astonishing speed and ease. Instead of logical explanations or watching the characters work to find answers, Ahsoka offers middlingly lighted lightsaber duels that boast great choreography and lack purposeful emotion. Likewise, The Rise of Skywalker's conveniences were a triptych and then some. Palpatine's unexplained return, a fleet of Star Destroyers from nowhere, and a surprise healing power that drained Ben Solo of his life rather than explore how survival would have played out. The Rise of Skywalker and Ahsoka's hand-waving speaks to a larger problem justifying just because as acceptable screenwriting. Rather than committing to Rey's feelings about her heritage, Rise of Skywalker had a big, be distracted by lightsaber duel energy. A line of MacGuffins facilitated Rey's easy trek to Palpatine, Ben rejected the dark side in a blink. Don't question it. Certainly Dave Filoni wouldn't have brought back Ahsoka Tano and the Rebels characters if he lacked affection for them. So why isn't Ahsoka taking the time to rest in their emotions? Ahsoka, Sabine Wren, and Hera Syndulla discuss their feelings in distant terms. The one thing Ahsoka does explain is how everyone feels, but without nuance. It's an anvil to the head way as if Filoni thinks the audiences won't comprehend subtle character work and gradual development without hand-holding. It's also classic telling instead of showing, leaving themes messy and the characters thin, especially given Ahsoka's semi-scattered pacing. Rushing past heavy-duty emotional motifs and providing easy outs for plot weakens the story's potential. Speaking of dialogue, Ahsoka even repeats the modern Star Wars trend of oddly stilted, weak scripts. The Rise of Skywalker, as we know, birthed the worst line in Star Wars history. Somehow, Palpatine returned. Those three words aren't just a hand wave, they're an indication that the writers weren't interested in explaining. If Sabine tells Ahsoka, I'm ready, when the visual cue the same sentiment, then a somehow Thrawn returned moment wouldn't be too far off the mark. In general, Ahsoka has made everything too easy, especially compared to the finely woven story threads of Star Wars Rebels. Of course, it's worth considering that Ahsoka has 8 episodes to work with versus Rebels' 4 hearty seasons. Limited time, however, means one must use that limited time wisely. Instead, just like the Rise of Skywalker, Ahsoka meanders into the odd side of the street and takes shortcuts when the attention is needed most. Between the map to Thrawn removing all mystery, Ahsoka finding the map and Sabine opening it with ease, Sabine surviving a lightsaber stabbing, her swift surrendering of the map to Balin's skull, in a snap, instead of understanding how the two elements complement and work together, the trend of prioritizing plot goals over character evolution continues. Nostalgia isn't automatically bad. If its indulgence is meaningful and earned, then it's respecting the franchise's legacy. When nostalgia becomes a driving force for stale narrative choices, then things fall apart. Palpatine was the biggest example of the Rise of Skywalker, recycling a villain for the convenience and marketing. The film couldn't escape Return of the Jedi's themes, redemption, objects, the Death Star ruins, and locale, that baffling trip to Tatooine. Rebels might be some of the best material Lucasfilm has ever produced, but jumping to its story threads into another medium without pause provides no room for casual Star Wars fans. Why is David Tennant's Huyang even there? Conversely, if you loved Rebels, Ahsoka's reliance on surface-level details, objects, names, and character appearance feels like a hollow way to earn fans' emotional response. A relevant event like Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka's reunion in Rebels was earned, a moment symbolic enough for Obi-Wan to mimic. Time and again, media has proven that appealing to viewers with nostalgic domination isn't a strong enough structure for something to stand on its own 2 feet. Perhaps Ahsoka's weaknesses were sadly inevitable. The "this is happening because I say so" philosophy at the expense of characterization also repeats the Mandalorian's worst tendencies. Unlike Rebels' meticulous character-focused plotting, where errors are contained to a minimum, Ahsoka is oddly directionless, beyond the overwhelming rush to get to Thrawn already, that is. Perhaps Dave Filoni's strongest traits as a storyteller don't translate to live action. I've read fan fiction with better premises and execution. Star Wars tried to read the room post-Rise of Skywalker, but it didn't learn that failure is the most vital lesson. Even with its fun moments and pitch-perfect casting, almost everything in Ahsoka is unwarranted, messy, and too contrived by half while sacrificing necessary, meaningful character growth. And this is what modern Star Wars fans find acceptable. Taste is subjective, but Ahsoka is a saltine parading around as a Ritz. It will fill you up, but you won't be excited to eat another one. Fans were so distraught over the sequel trilogy and what Rian Johnson did with The Last Jedi that anyone was a better choice, and fans gravitated towards Dave Filoni. Turns out Filoni wasn't the savior of Star Wars that everyone hoped he would be. His work on Ahsoka plays out like a big-budget fan fiction. Even with the spectacular visuals, they aren't enough to hold fans' interest. One has to wonder if that's a response to the overabundance of CGI and entertainment, or a lack of enthusiasm for this show in particular. The latter seems more likely, and that's the biggest problem Star Wars has. It's one part burnout from past bad Disney Star Wars, and one part underwhelming content from Ahsoka. This show had a lot of Rebels fans excited, but as stated in earlier videos, Rebels fans aren't the majority of the Star Wars fanbase, and not enough to move the needle in terms of Disney Plus subscriber growth. This show offers little to the broader Star Wars community. It begs the question, can Star Wars ever get back its momentum? Currently, that doesn't seem likely. Theatrically, they devalued the films, and on streaming, the shows offer so little in terms of rewatchability and overall value that they become a chore to watch. When your favorite thing becomes a chore to watch, all is truly lost. I'm shocked that Collider had the nerve to be this honest. This is the company who had a guy cry because he wasn't allowed to go to Galaxy's Edge for free. He put in his time to be a fan and, well, nothing happened. Poor Christian Harloff. It's surprisingly refreshing to hear Collider continue to be honest about The Rise of Skywalker as well. That film was an unmitigated disaster. It offered nothing to the Star Wars lore outside of damaging it, and damn it, it was stupid to boot. Palpatine was back, Rise of Skywalker, Lando's there just because, I'm the spy. It felt like a really basic video game. No real story, just set pieces and bad exposition. That's what happens when you let J.J. Abrams put Star Wars in his mystery box. He forgets to cut air holes in the box, and he killed it. Thank you, J.J. We're a little past the halfway mark with Ahsoka as of this release, and they're going to be cramming a lot into a few episodes. That will create a disjointed and uneven show that won't entice people to watch. If anything, Ahsoka is a great cure for insomnia. Her quiet and stoic demeanor is so soothing. With a poor showing like this, why did Lucasfilm ever let Jon Favreau go? That man was the architect of the MCU. He crafted The Mandalorian. He really is as good as they say when it comes to genre entertainment. Kathleen Kennedy put her eggs in the Filoni basket. The good ones fell out, and the rest are rotten. All of Star Wars is pretty rotten. The Acolyte isn't going to fare much better since it's Star Wars without the war. This new trilogy is a series of disconnected films that will fail to make an impression as well. Fans are over-trusting this era of Star Wars, and sadly, it will probably be the last. Is there a way to breathe new life into this franchise? The Mandalorian was that breath, but after forced spin-offs and bad episodes, the fans stopped watching. The future isn't too bright for Star Wars. Maybe it's time to close the book on that galaxy far, far away. So folks, what did you think about this? What do you think about the honesty of Collider? Is Ahsoka as bad as they say? I think it's boring. I don't think it's really worth writing videos about, but we'll have one big one when the season's over. But it's refreshing to hear someone talk about, even if it's years later, how bad The Rise of Skywalker is. That film is a joke masquerading around as a film. Star Wars has seen better, Star Wars deserves better, and the fans deserve better. And folks, if you want something better in the Star Wars wheelhouse, then go over to stealingsolo.com right now and get yourself a copy of the greatest Star Wars parody since Spaceballs. It answers the greatest what-if question of all time. What if a group of disgruntled Star Wars fans kidnap Harrison Ford and force him to remake Star Wars in their basement? That and a whole lot more is answered in Stealing Solo, a Captain's Parody. There's a limited amount available, and once they're gone, folks. So head on over to stealingsolo.com right now and get your copy today. I ship out books all the time, and stealingsolo.com is powered by Shopify, so you get their award-winning safety and security. And by the way, when you get a copy, do us a favor. Tag us on social media to let us know you got it, and let us know what you think. It's been called Laugh Out Loud Funny, and I'm quite proud of the work I did on it. So folks, thank you for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to WCBS, and do us one last favor. Share the word. Tell a friend, and they'll tell two friends, and they'll tell two friends, and so on, and so on, and so on, as we grow to 200K. So folks, we are so close, I can almost see it, I can almost smell it, I can almost taste it, and it tastes better than this blandness that is Ahsoka. So help WCBS get to 200K, then we're on our way to 1 million, 10 million, sky's the limit, space is the place. We're gonna get funky like a monkey, and if you like wrestling, well, make sure you listen to our show each and every week, because jabroni, we got the show for you. But until then, folks, be smart, be safe, be cool. but always be excellent to each other. Thanks for watching today's video. Yes, it's over, but don't cry because there's more, a lot more from World Class Bullshitters, and there's only one way to get it. Hit that subscribe button below. When you do that, you'll get notifications and updates from World Class Bullshitters every time we go live. Basically, you won't miss anything. And if there's one thing I hate, it's FOMO. But the thing most people hate more than FOMO is fear of missing out on World Class Bullshitters, because there's just some things you can't undo. So folks, do yourselves a favor and never miss anything from World Class Bullshitters. One last thing before you go, hit the thumbs up button. Not for our egos, no, they're big enough as this, but it does help us fight the algorithm here, and well, it's man versus machine, and that's the real fight. But if that's not your battle, that's okay. There's one last way you can help WCBS, and that's going over to shopwcbs.com, picking up a t-shirt, a beer glass, a sweatshirt, a poster, all sorts of ways to back WCBS. The difference between us and other YouTube channels is I'm the artist that makes all this stuff, so if you enjoy art beyond t-shirts, you can even read our comic books. We got it all. We're called the epitome of pop culture for a reason, and no, again, it's not for our egos. So folks, make sure you're involved with every aspect of World Class Bullshitters, not just for us, but do it for yourself. We're making the change in entertainment everybody out there wants to see. And a special thank you goes out to all of our wonderful patrons who make this content possible. Go to patreon.com/worldclassbs to get involved and help out the channel.